welcome everybody. Thank you very much for jumping on. As usual, we've got Pete the Feet who walks the bricks, and he's going to give us a little update of what's going on in the UK and the UK property market. We've got a new Dave Meaden, who I'm looking forward to hearing about our first ever commercial venture. So welcome, Dave.
Yeah.
And we've got Aga, who's the mortgage expert, who's going to tell us all about mortgages. And finally, and it won't be for long, Paul Howarth is there because he's got another meeting more important than this, and he's going to tell us about structures. So fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to the show, and it is a show. Pete, let's start with you. Where have you been? What are we looking at?
Let me explain to everybody why we're going into this market. It's something that I know and love, the commercial market, and Dave does as well. He's had a huge amount of experience, both researching, gaining planning permission for, and building industrial units. It's really great idea to have a diverse portfolio, as you'll all know. And so the great thing with industrial units, they have pretty constant yields that are sensible, and they also got really sensible growth over the last 2 years in particular. We have a massive shortage of small industrial units for SMEs, so small and medium-sized enterprises. This brand new stock that's been built. Dave and I have been down to site a few times. We're impressed with the quality of the build. And we feel that it's great for you guys to have something fresh and new, because whereas all of the other providers of property focus on just apartments, we want to offer you new products. So I do hope you're going to be interested in them. Dave is extremely knowledgeable and will be very actively managing the whole process. And likewise, if you need anything from me, you can always phone me as well. Over to you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Pete. Good morning, everybody. This is my first Holborn webinar presentation, so you'll have to excuse me if I get off track, but if I do, I'm sure Chris will push me back in the right direction. On the screen, if you can see it at the moment, will be an outline of the new project at Yeovil, which is called Arterial 88. And the site provides us with 27 light industrial units of the types and form that you can see. They have floor areas from 1,100 to 1,600 square feet. There's 3 different varieties in terms of overall sizes. And of the 27 units, there are 4 reserved. So there's 23 available for the network to be putting forward to their investors and finding opportunities to expand those portfolios. The key points I think we can just run into quite quickly. The highlights: 27 commercial units, of which 23 available. The starting prices start at 225 for the smaller units, going up to 295,000 for the larger units. They're freeholds. They're due for completion in June 2023, and on our website you will see that there are some pictures of the recent stages of construction, and we're due to go down in the next week, take some more photographs, and those will be updated on the website. So we're very excited that this is getting very close to practical completion, and in all reality, these units are immediately available. The gross yields that we're looking at here are around 6.1% based upon the information that we've been provided with, and we've been tracking through with the developers and the local agents. We're looking at a scheme which has fully allocated parking to all the units, a relatively sensible 10% deposit on exchange and balance on completion. The specification, we're very impressed with the quality of the units, the way that's been put together, and the types of materials that are being used. So we're very comfortable with this specification. As I said, they're immediately available, and there's a relatively small reservation fee of £2,400 to get set up. So that gives me a great pleasure in introducing you to the site and the outline, and I'll take you on to a little bit more detail. So in the project, as I said, we have a good specification, good floor loadings. Traditional units of this kind have a 6-metre eaves height, which we've got. These units have a part mezzanine floor, so they're ideal for a combination of storage and office accommodation, or could all be storage and office. The upper floors have solid floors. The whole site is fully insulated, good quality cladding systems to roofs and walls, roof lights, and colour-coated aluminium windows and doors, insulated roller shutters, and allocated parking, as I've said before. So we're really pleased with the quality of the output that's coming along on the site, and we think this is an excellent investment opportunity for everybody. Very sensible starting prices, and the units are just coming up to completion.
Dave, I'm just going to interrupt you there.
Dave, just to say that we do have exclusivity as well. I think that's important. So
these units are not available on the open market. And we're working with Fortitudo, who are the developers for the scheme, to bring forward with the local agents the lettings and leases, which will follow on once we get to the practical completion stage.
Dave, just one thing, when we launched this and told people that what we were doing, first thing people asked us, oh no, I think that's going to be too expensive for my clients, etc. I mean, 225 to 300,000 is such a good price, and really it falls right in Holborn's sweet spot. So I'm really pleased. What I wanted to do now, because you've mentioned that bit, and I know Paul's on a time limit. Paul, can you jump straight in and talk to us about SIPs and cure-ops and the stuff that you're an expert in?
Of course. So, as a general rule of thumb, the most tax efficient product that anybody's got access to is normally a pension. That's a given, and depending on the jurisdiction that the client's in, whether it is a cure-ops or it's a SIP in the UK, the starting point is probably the most tax efficient areas to go at. Now, traditionally, when you hear the word pension, you think of investment funds and unit trust linked funds and such things as that. But when you invest in a SIP or a cure-ops, it widens the scope of what people are allowed to actually buy within that structure. And if we just think of it as a trust based scheme, because that's exactly what it is. Commercial property is one thing that can be owned in a pension structure like that, as is a direct share or a gold bullion. Or I had one client who had a lake in it once. As long as there's a viable commercial yield to it and it's on the list signed off by HMRC or whatever the jurisdiction is, then it can be allowed to be put into it. Now, that's important because it starts to open up the client's mind into possibilities of how that can be funded. And particularly in the UK now, with the increase in the annual allowance to £60,000, that's quite a lot of money that one person can put into a pension on an annual basis. But you've got to show the full suite to the client as to what they're going into and what the longer term plan is and how it meets their objectives at the back end as well, to get them excited about the prospect of investing in commercial property and using a pension vehicle to do that. They can use in the UK carry forward as an allowance, which means as long as they use this year's 60,000 allowance, they can go back the previous 3 years if they haven't. It starts to get really spicy for limited company directors, because that money can be moved out of the limited company straight into the pension, and that is it all comes off the gross profit line, which has a big impact on the corporation tax. We're going into 24% now in the UK. So if I put some figures on that, if you imagined a business that had a net profit of £100,000, the tax bill to the company would be 24 grand. If they made a £60,000 pension contribution, then their net profit would be £40,000 rather than the £100,000, and they would effectively save 14.5 grand in tax. 60 grand into the pension accumulates, and Naga will come on to talk about how that can be financed as well. But you are effectively putting money in gross, £60,000 over a few years, and you're buying the property gross because it's paid for in the pension at the value that it is. You're not drawing money out of the company or paying it out of net profit. You're buying it gross. So there's one important thing with this, that we get so psychologically drawn into the yield of 5% or 5.5% or 6%. If we get to 7, we get a bit excited. Change the mindset on this, because if you get the tax right on it, you're 20-40% up before you've done anything. Yeah, so start with that as the spearhead of the advice, and then you look at the different vehicles that you can actually buy and invest in when you're in the tax efficient vehicle. Now, the back end of this, which is important when being positioned to a client, is when we look at how people draw benefits. Okay, so in a really simple example of this, the clients that I've planned with over the years, and probably 85% of my work was all that retirement work. So, you know, people accumulating, but people drawing the benefits. The people who've had the most comfortable retirements are the ones that have had property as part of their overall pension entitlement. And what I mean by that is if you run a simple cash flow on the model, and let's say a client needs £3,000 a month to provide an income that they want and how they want to live the life. If that's all coming from a unit trust type pension pot, and they draw the income from it, and they're relying on that £3,000 to come from their whatever £300,000 fund, then you're going to get the ebbs and flows in the market, and they're probably going to have a little bit of a few headaches along the way. Now, if you've got a steady base income, a yield that's coming from a property portfolio of 3 or 4 properties, you don't need loads. You know, we have a golden number of 6 that we use, but 3 or 4 is enough if you're getting yields of, 6, 7, 800 quid a property. And if your base income of that £3,000, £2,000 of it is coming from a property, then the £1,000 that's coming from the unit trust portfolio, you're in such a better, more secure, diverse position than if you're relying for the full 3,000 to come from liquid assets, i.e. the unit trusts. And one that always stuck in my mind is a client at £250,000 at the age of 65 on exactly the same interest rates, inflation rates, growth rates. And the one client that took out £1,200 a month, the fund ran out at 73 rather, and the one that drew £1,000 a month, that's just £200 less, ran out when it was 87. And that difference in that element of being able to be flexible on how you draw your money and having the security, obviously it's property, so we can't say that it doesn't come without any risk. But the more you diversify and you get a bedrock of income through some property in your portfolio, it's much better for the client, in my experience, down the line when they actually come to drawing the benefits out as well. And finally, the inheritance tax is a massive part of this as well, because, particularly in the UK, they just lifted the allowance from £1 million. Put quite a few people off by probably investing in property, because it's a lot of money, but you can quite easily be breached that amount if you're accumulating property in it. But now that's been lifted, so there's no reason why clients can't use this. And what that means is basically it'll fall outside the estate and won't be assessed for inheritance tax and the 40% charge, because it's in the pension. So if somebody dies with £2 million worth of property in the pension or the SIP, then that will fall off the balance sheet when HMRC start coming knocking on the door saying, right, how much do you owe us now because somebody's died? So that's another, extremely valuable tool to use to plan for long term, for generational, taking care of the needs of yourself while it's in your life, which is the first priority. But also, if you can do that in a manner that also protects the wealth in the family for the next generation, then it's win-win. Okay, and the other structures to do this through are limited companies and SPVs. So there's the 2 main ones. You've got the SIPs, pensions, whatever that falls under SIPs, cure ops, and you've got limited company SPVs to own this type of stock in as well. And working with an accountant on that is obviously key.
Paul, that is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I learned so much there, and I hope other people on the list of people watching today are obviously a lot of Holborn wealth managers, and they can assist clients that are also on here on how to do those things. Otherwise, and I didn't introduce him properly, Paul works for Holborn. So therefore, if there's anybody that's come here via social media, and is on the show, then Paul sounds like he's the expert. So Paul, absolutely brilliant. I'm going to jump now down to Aga. Aga, welcome to the show. I think this falls in nicely because Paul mentioned mortgages, and we're all used to residential mortgages, but I know commercial mortgages are slightly different. So Aga, can you tell us what we need to know about mortgaging on these small light industrial units?
Hello, first of all, welcome from sunny Manchester in the UK. Yes, I have the pleasure to tell a few words about the exciting world of mortgages. So in the commercial world, we are looking for deposits. I would say the minimum would be 30%. Sometimes there are products available with 25% deposits, but 30% we deem as a safe level of deposit. The higher the deposit, obviously, the lower the rates we can access. The rates currently available for commercial mortgages start at 6.5%, but these are the lowest rates available with high deposits in the region of 50-40%, and available to certain clients with specific circumstances. Obviously, the more specialist the situation, the higher the rates go, and they can go up to 8-9% on a specialist commercial mortgage. What I would also mention is that usually we have to factor in, apart from the mortgage rates, arrangement fees charged by the lender, which are in the region between 2 and 1.5%, and obviously other fees like valuation fee, for example, or legal fee that comes separately to the mortgage cost. And in a nutshell, this is it about mortgages.
Hang on, we're all used to doing residential mortgages. They need a copy of your passport, 6 months bank statements, letter from your company, proof of deposit, AML, etc. Am I right in thinking it's slightly different for commercial, or is it roughly the same?
I would say it is fairly the same in terms of client verification. It is a commercial mortgage, but we still have to verify an individual client. And even if it is a limited company purchase, or we are purchasing via a SIP, an individual client will need to be verified in the same way, with presenting ID documents, proof of address, bank statements, and very important source of deposit funds. So in a way,
I was going to say, we say every week until, but the best thing to do is to speak to Aga, your mortgage broker, as early as possible.
Yes.
I say it every week, but don't go, whether it be residential or commercial, speak to the experts and get yourself dipped. I'm going to go now back to Dave Meaden, because I sort of cut you off in the middle, but Paul's still there, so he's kidded me. So Paul, Dave, carry on.
Okay, so I was just giving you an overview of the facility that's available with these new units. Probably some of you would like to know a little bit more about the location. They're based in Yeovil in Somerset. It's a regional centre with a population grab of around 150,000 people. It was previously historically a leather industry location because of the amount of rural areas which were ideal for cattle rearing and the like. The strategically located business park is right on the edge of Yeovil. It's home to Leonardo Helicopters, which was GKN, Westland, Augusta previously. I think you have something to say, Pete, on that, don't you?
I do. I mean, we call it nuts, bolts and helicopters because GKN are the largest world provider of nuts and bolts, but they also make helicopters, which is a strange sort of thing. It's a little bit like going to a fish restaurant and finding you're going to eat a turtle or something. But it's a really great company. They've got massive exposure around the world. They are one of the best helicopter manufacturers in the world. And you've also got some other very, very large employers in Yeovil. And for those of you that don't know, Yeovil used to be the British centre of making gloves. And so everything down in Yeovil is called like Glover's Walk, etc., etc. and so they were the glove manufacturing capital of the whole of the UK. There you go.
Wow, it's a history lesson, it's a geography lesson, it's a property lesson. I learn everything. I just love this show. And Westland, of course, were very, very famous going back 20 years with the Conservative government making a bit of a big zero of it. But anyway, there's enough of that. It's also, by the way, for those people that are on and don't know England very well, it's very near Stonehenge, where, of course, you were around, Pete, when they built it. So, sorry, Dave, back to you.
Absolutely.
Yeovil was a very busy strategic local centre for the region, and as Pete mentioned, there's other businesses there which are really important to the UK economy. Honeywell and Garrador. And Garrador make pretty much all the garage doors and roller shutter doors in the UK. They have a lot of factory units very nearby, and our actual location in Lufton Trading Estate, we can show you on the map here very easily, is the star represents where we are in southwest England, and you have Bristol to the north, Exeter out to the southwest, Bournemouth to the southeast, and the likes of Southampton and the routes up northeast towards London, all via the A303, provide excellent routings. And there's also train connectivity to Yeovil from London and the local regional centres, so it's well connected.
Dave, I've got a question, and I also saw that Paul had his hand up. So, Paul, I've got a question that come up which might be in your sphere of expertise, and it really is expertise. Morning, Ben here in South Africa. Would this require to register the business in the UK first? And if so, which registration firm would work with Holborn? Thank you in advance. You're welcome, Ben. Who can answer that?
Well, if we're talking about a UK-based limited company that's profitable in the UK, then that would be generating income that's taxable in the UK, and therefore that money could be used to be put into a pension. If you're talking about registering it as a limited company as a vehicle to actually buy the property, then that could be done offshore. We've got obviously the tax advisors that can do that, I think, through the Isle of Man that they set that up. So it's just being clear on which of those things it is. But I'm happy to talk about that separately. If you want to drop me an email, I'll give you a call. No problem at all. We can jump on and discuss that.
He was actually saying, would it require to register a business? So it's possible an individual could still buy without the company involvement.
You can earn it as an individual, absolutely. There's tax implications of doing it through a pension, doing it through a limited company, and doing it individually. And that usually comes down to the income tax rates and the growth rates. So if you bought it personally and then you sold it, you'd be subject to capital gains tax. If you sold it within the limited company, it'd be subject to corporation tax. If you sold it in the pension, it would be tax free. So, and obviously, if you've got any intention of not buying one but buying 4 or 5, pretty quickly, you're gonna run into a tax issue with buying it in your own name, and they're coming after you for the 40% in inheritance tax if it's in your own name. So I wouldn't, again, it needs looking at from an advice point of view in relation to that structure. But when you're doing this, there's absolutely no two ways about it. The step with this is you do it with a UK advisor, and you do it joined up with a UK accountant. And that is such a powerful, potent proposition for a client to do proper advice for them. I wouldn't do it any other way. Know where the lines in the sand are, get people involved that you need to bring in for those levels of advice to do it. And you obviously just know enough to get through the door and be able to do that. I'm going to have to shoot off, guys. I do apologise. One thing I didn't say is that the borrowing levels within a SIP are 50% of the net asset value of the SIP. So, for example, if you had 500 grand in it, you could borrow 250 grand. So that's important. So if somebody has 200 grand, they'd be able to borrow 100 grand. So when you're thinking about the funding process of this, that bit's important. And from a pragmatic point of view, I would be cautious around putting people right up to the to the edge with property in the SIP. And what I mean by that is if all you've got is 200 grand in your SIP, I'd be cautious of using that 200 grand to fire it all straight into a property. You know, you need some liquidity in there. I think a really good, value is probably about 70% of the value of the SIP to hold in property. So, depends on the client, depends on the circumstances. But, if you had 300 grand and you bought a property for 220, I think that's a really healthy place to start. Sometimes people get 100 grand and they go, right, I'm going to go and buy that shop. They do it, and then they've got the fees to come out of it, which are usually flat fees. And it can stunt your growth from early on. Sometimes it's better off just making sure the funding levels are right, and then you go into it and look at the longer term. But you're going on that journey with the client anyway, advising them in that way. I'm free if anybody needs me or wants to chat through anything. Contact me. I'm going to have to shoot, but thanks, guys,
Right.
and I'll catch you soon.
Thanks, Paul. I hope you get to Tesco's in time. And have a lovely day. And yeah, brilliant information. And this is all being recorded, everybody. So there was a lot there that Paul said. And please, if anybody else has got questions, please put them in like Ben did. And I'm going to go straight back to Dave Meaden. I keep cutting you off, Dave. Cheers, Paul.
That's okay. Thanks, Paul. So here I have put in front of you a simple summary of the situation. On the left-hand side is a simple site layout. There are 4 blocks. As you will see, the units available in Block A are the larger units, available from £295,000 each. Block B, there's 6 units available from £275,000 each. And in Block D, there are 12 units available from £225,000 each with slightly different floor areas. All those prices we've quoted at the moment are excluding VAT. To get going on this, a reservation deposit of £2,400 is required, and the property is available for reservation immediately.
Dave, a question's come in.
Yeah.
When it comes to when they purchased it, when it comes to leasing, what are the arrangements for leasing for the owner?
Okay, so at this stage, Fortitudo has appointed 2 agents, one regional, one local. Alder King, based regionally, working to fill up the units with occupiers. They're already marketing, and on a local basis, Edmonds Commercial, both of whom we've met, will also be looking to look after the local lettings to make sure that we get access and everybody gets to see the sites as soon as they're available for viewing. Which will be towards the end of June. But there's been a lot of inquiries in the marketplace. Looking at the last week, there were about 400 hits on Alder King's website. They're very happy with the way things are going. There's a lot of inquiries out there, and a lot of people still looking for property in the region and the location. Can
I just add, Dave? Can I just add as well? We are finding there's some interest in people wanting 3 and 4 units, or 2, 3 and 4 units. Yeah. So for some of you that have investments of say £500,000 to £1 million available, we do have clients that are saying, well, we actually like a whole row or half a block. So we do have that going on as well. In the very first serious conversation we had with somebody that he was looking to get 8 units, which is quite interesting. So just to let you know that it's not just the individual units. If people have got higher appetites, then they could quite easily place £500,000 or £1 million.
Dave, just following on, thanks, Pete. Yeah. And what did you say to the guy who wanted 8? Did you just say no? Did you say that to him?
As we always would.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, you can't have 8. You can only buy 1. Dave, you just mentioned the leasing, etc. I got that, and then ongoing the management. Would the same 2 companies that you mentioned, the regional one and the international one, would they be looking after the management of the property too ongoing?
Well, it's quite likely that we'll probably be doing arrangements with Edmonds Commercial, because they are local, and it'd be better to have a local agent who's based in the town. They've been based there for 25 years or more. They know the business inside out, and they know exactly what they're doing. So yeah, those arrangements will be brought forward, and they'll be included in information that we're able to pass to potential purchasers to ensure that they're properly protected throughout the sales and delivery process.
Thanks, Dave. Another question's come in from Jason Conlin up there in Scotland, but I don't think any of the four of us are qualified, but I'm going to read it out anyway. I think it'll be Paul Howarth that can do this. What QROPS providers allow commercial property within them? I think that's one for Paul Howarth. I'll get hold of him straight after the show. You agree with that? Yeah.
Yes. Bob spoke to me last night and said that Holborn have a huge amount of QROPS holders and good SIP amounts as well. And he said, the great thing about that is as he described it, old money. So it's a perfect opportunity to a balance between a commercial mortgage and QROPS extraction, I suppose you would call it, or replacement. So it's not my field of expertise. No. You're completely right. Paul's the right person to ask.
Okay, another question's come in for you, Dave. You got there at the bottom, all prices excluding VAT. Getting your VAT back, is that a simple process?
It's a well-recognised and relatively simple process, and all of the structures that we have discussed and Paul discussed earlier, there are mechanisms involved in all of those, like with the limited companies, SPVs and SIPs, to enable the purchasers to get the VAT back. So they get the VAT back on their purchase, but also on their fees, which is also quite useful, something they wouldn't necessarily get completely residential. And also ongoing, there would be the ability to charge VAT on the rents, but that would have to be recovered against service charges, etc. So there are mechanisms that are fully understood and available. It would need to have the company or the proper setup, and there would be some ongoing accountancy requirements with the management of those positions, but that's not unusual for a property that's been put into a SIP or an SPV situation.
Dave, that's brilliant. One question has just come up. What type of businesses are going to go for a unit like this with the ground floor and the mezzanine? Are they going to be light industrial? What sort of do you envisage? So people have got an idea of who the end user is going to be.
There is a very large range of small businesses who have a need for property. I think it would be fair to say that, from my experience, just about any type of business, with the other units that we've done recently, they would be like glazing manufacturers. They could be aluminium, or they could be UPVC. We also have occupied companies that specialise in print and printing capability. Architects' practices, would you believe, and engineering practices take these units, even though they don't need all of the same types of facilities. It's a huge range. Most sort of small construction businesses, so electricians and the like, would have a need for a unit like this to store essential consumables for their businesses, to have a place to deliver stock to while they're out working, and have a small office on the mezzanine to enable them to provide the admin that's required and cover off all of the other quoting and invoicing responsibilities.
Also, you tend to find associated companies with, so Leonardo's, where they're doing their helicopters and nuts and bolts, they will have lots and lots of subcontractors that want small facilities, and they do like being quite close to each other. So you'll find there's spin outs. When any of these companies, when you go down to Yeovil and you drive around, you haven't just got Leonardo's and then Westland that used to be. You've got lots of other little tiny specialist companies that have spawned up from where they used to work there, found some little widget that they're making for the bigger company, and then set up on their own businesses. That's quite atypical.
And also retail outlets as well. Some of the retail outlets would be interested in units here, like trade counters and the like, for specialist smallest activities. So yeah, it's quite a wide variety of opportunity. Yeah.
And obviously, from what you said earlier on, a lot of demand in the area for exactly what we've got here.
There's very good demand in the area. The rates have been increasing over 5% per annum over the last few years on the rentals, and that's very bullish and positive, and it reflects what's happening around the rest of the country at the moment. There's a very strong demand for small industrial units, and we are looking at a few other locations to follow on from Artillery 88 in the future.
That's great. Aga, I was going to, just whilst you're on, can you give us a quick, brief overview of the mortgage market in the UK? So much going on. I'm a great listener to LBC, and I don't think there's a programme goes past without talking about the property market, the mortgage market, interest rates. Perhaps you could give us our helicopter view, there are 2 helicopter views, on the market as it stands.
Oh, it's a very dynamic world to be in. I've been in the mortgages world in the UK for over 10 years, and this is probably the most dynamic period I've been through in the mortgage world. We had a lot of interest changes in the last half a year, I would say. I think 11 times we had the base rate change, but the good thing is, in my view, the landscape is stabilizing nicely at the level we are in. And we had some very positive news today as well, that the inflation has come down to 8% from 10% last month. So that's good news. And I think it's very good news for interest rates as well, which I think would stabilize at the level that we're seeing at the moment. So I wouldn't expect interest rates, further interest rate increases. And what we've seen, especially in commercial mortgages world, interest rates have been quite stable. So they haven't been going up in line with residential mortgage rates.
Okay, that's great. Pete, just to sort of wrap up, you're on your travels. I think you're on your travels this week, and you're going up to Edinburgh in Scotland to have a look at some stock there. You're coming down. We've got York, Manchester, Birmingham. What else? I know I go all the way down to Brighton. That's stealing your thunder. Where are we looking? Where's your little Ford Anglia been?
Looking at a lot of places, but what we're also going to do is rationalise what we've got on our books yet again. And there's a real reason for that. I think that if we look at the sales that have been happening, we do need geographic spread, because if somebody, for instance, does want Edinburgh, then they're not going to go necessarily and buy in Exeter. That's not going to happen. So we still have that to cater for. I'm going to go up and see Jason Conlon. He's hopefully going to give me the benefit of his knowledge, obviously, in Edinburgh. It's his patch. But I'm working on a range of different products, and we've got the bones of a strategic relationship in place, which we're very excited about, and that's going to give us some great exclusive stock. So Riyadh came over and has been working on it as well with me, and so I'm not going to say too much until we get there. But what we want to do is rationalise it. I would really love to hear from you guys about not necessarily just where you want to go, because we're not just going to flood the books, but anything that we can do that's going to assist you to become really good at property sales. I'd really love to get a lot more of you doing a property a month. I don't think that's beyond a wit of man. If there's something that we can do to help you, then we'll certainly do our best. Please use the great services that Chris offers. He's always available. Likewise, Aga will always assist if you've got some questions on mortgages. And Dave Meaden, certainly on industrial. I mean, he's got a huge amount of experience just because he's so old. And he's been involved in an awful lot of projects. We're all here and we want to help you. We want you to be successful. So please just ping me questions. It can be done on the WhatsApp group if you like. I just want to try and get a better interaction with you all to see what we can do to help you.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Aga. Welcome to the show, first time. And that wraps it up. Let's see what we can do with Artillery 88. I think it looks very exciting, and he's not there now, but I do think that Paul's got a great lot of knowledge there when it comes down to it.